Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Family Wars. A nested family strikes back. So this is a continuation from my webinar a couple weeks ago when I started with the creating an R2D2 family. My name is Philip Charlson. I'm a senior MEP technical specialist with ATG. So a little bit about myself. So past 19 of the last 20 years, I've been with an Autodesk reseller as a technical resource for both the MEP and the architecture side. I spent a year at as a BIM manager for a large national firm. I've been working with a number of users, companies on Revit since 2002 when Autodesk first purchased the Revit program. I also have the most certifications by a user in Minnesota. I think I'm at 22 and counting. Also, I love Legos and definitely Star Wars. So it's been kind of fun building up these webinars in a Star Wars type of theme. So again, today is part 2 of a 3-part trilogy of family creation sessions for users who want to start developing families for their company or just want a little bit more knowledge about families that they may go in place within their projects. Again, this is a continuation from episode 1. You can find that on the ATG website on the actually on the YouTube page, so you can catch that if you missed the first part. Today we're going to be continuing on and taking a look at some nested families and also MEP type connectors within families. The chat window and Q&A is open. I did put it out there in the chat window if you have some particular topics related to family creation that you want me to possibly cover in the future. Definitely add those, and I will add them to the list and see what I can do with those. All right, so our goal today, and it's kind of an overall goal of really all the webinars, and it's just to have a better understanding of developing the Revit families the correct way. I know a lot of people start digging into families and they don't always start out in the correct manner. So I want you to be obviously as successful as possible with your family creation and make good quality content for the company that you work for. So some learning objectives that we're looking at today, just kind of a short review from the previous webinar just to get everybody caught up. Also, we're going to be looking at some nested families, adding those into the families, and then also showing the process of adding connectors into a family for the MEP folks. So this is something that I showed in the previous webinar in my slide presentation. I would say it's probably the most important slide. It's something good to kind of put by your desk as you're creating families. It's basically the steps that you want to take as you're going in and developing the families. So basically in the last webinar, we went in, selected a template, a family template to start out with. Went in and created the framework, so that's developing reference planes. And then I went in and added some dimensions, added some labels, which are parameters within Revit. As I do this, I go in and flex the model. That means I'm testing out, I'm changing information in the labels to see if reference planes are adjusting as expected. And then I go in and start adding the geometry. So I went in and showed some different options with the geometry options. And then I went in and locked that geometry to the reference planes. And then I went in and flexed the model again. So again, I tested out to make sure that the geometry was moving with the reference planes that were created. So I didn't go in and create any types. I'll actually do a little bit of that today. Obviously, I did save the family, and we can then go in and test the family and do a project, see how it looks within that particular project. So first off today is taking a look at the nested families. They can be used for more complex types of families. And what I mean by that is if you have a lot of geometry going on within a particular family, sometimes it's easier to kind of part it out and develop subfamilies that can be placed into a kind of an assembly. For people that have experienced maybe an Inventor or SolidWorks, they can kind of get that impression there with the parts and assembly type models. And that's sometimes what nested families can do for you. Obviously, another key thing with nested families is just simply saving time. If you are repeating a lot of the same geometry from family to family, sometimes it's easier to create those parts to be able to reuse them in other families and not have to keep creating them over and over again. Create them once and then bring them into a particular family. The thing that you got to be aware of is that it can add weight to a family overall. So that family size can really increase in size as you go in and add nested families. So be very careful with those. Make sure that you're purging all the unnecessary information that are in the nested families before you start bringing them into a collection. We want to kind of shrink wrap those families as much as possible. All right, and then the other item is the connectors. So that's going to be the second part here. So the connectors are strictly for the MEP design side of things. So these are needed in families when a designer wants to go in and develop systems. So that could be electrical systems, plumbing systems, HVAC systems. They need to have those in the families. And a lot of those connectors contain data that can create those systems, whether it be size or maybe flow type values or electrical type information that can be added to those connectors. And then I've got the listing of what type of connectors can actually be created. So we got our typical HVAC, piping, electrical, and we also have the conduit type connections and cable tray type connections. All right, so I'm going to pop into Revit here, give it a little bit of a demonstration. So let me open Revit here. So again, I'm kind of continuing on from the last webinar where I created this R2 unit. You notice I did take off the head of this R2 unit because I want to bring in some different types of heads. If you follow Star Wars at all, you know that there's a lot of different what are called R units. And for this instance, I want to bring in some families that represent the different head types of an R unit. So you can see that my file name, I just simply called it R unit here. When we take a look at the front elevation, you can see all my reference planes. I've got a lot of dimensions in here. I've got some labels in here as well. And also in the floor plan view, I've got a number of those instances as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some of these instances here. So I'm going to go to my Insert tab, and I want to go in and load a family here. So I've got a few different unit heads here. So I've got actually 5 of them set here. So I'm going to go in and bring in all 5 of them into my project. All right, so obviously we don't see anything happen yet. I haven't gone in and placed any. But if I go to my Create tab, I can go to the Component tool. And you'll see that I have those families in here right now. So if I want to start out with my R2 unit head, I'll go ahead and click on that. And I'll just simply drag that over. And I'll kind of line it up with my current geometry here. So I go ahead and click to place it. I'll go ahead and hit Escape a couple times. I want to make sure that I lock it to the reference planes here. So I'm going to click on my Line tool. And I'm just going to click on my center line and click on the center of my R2 unit head and lock that in, and do the same thing here with the front back and lock those in. And I also want to go to the front elevation because right now my R2 unit head is basically sitting on the floor here. So I want to go in and adjust that. So I click on my line and I'm going to click on the top reference here and lock that into there. So I'm actually going to change the name of this here. Let's call this bottom of head. All right, so I've got that one placed within there. Now with that placement, obviously I want to go in and place some other ones as well, but I want to signify when that one is shown. If I want to bring this into a project, I want to show each of the different types of units there. So if I come up here to the family types, I want to go in and create an R2 type within here. All right, so if I go in and click on the new type here, I'll just simply call this R2, click OK. All right, so we got a type there, great. But I also want to go in and create a new parameter. All right, so we're going to create a new family parameter here, and this is just going to be simply R2 head. All right, and type of parameter, I'm going to have this set as a yes, no parameter. That means it either is going to show or it's not going to show. All right, and it's just going to simply be grouped under other. So we'll see that within the type family types here. And it is going to be set as a type parameter. So I go ahead and click OK here, and you see we got R2 head, and it's checked in that instance. So if I go in and click on the R2 head, in order for me to be able to turn it on and off, we need to set that parameter to that R2 head. So if I go to the properties here, go to visible, it says, you know, it's checked right there. But I want to click on this here, the associate family parameter. And it's going to list all the yes, no parameters that are available. R2 head is the only one. So I go ahead and click OK. And now that one is tied to it. You see that the visible is grayed out now. So if I wanted to turn that off, I could come in here and uncheck that and click OK. Now I need to see the preview of that. So down at the very bottom here in my view control bar, I preview visibility and set that to on. So that gives me a preview of what it's going to look like in its current state. So this is kind of a nice little feature that they added a few years back for family creation. So instead of having to bring it into a project, test it out, and then go back to the family creation again, you don't have to go do that back and forth all the time. So this is a nice little option to have within there. So come back here, I'll go in and turn that on. Now I want to go in and create a few additional ones within here as well. So let me go in and add that in here. Actually, let me uncheck R2's head. And I'll go back to the reference level and I'll create another instance here. So let's do an R4 unit. So this one looks like a little bit more complicated one here. So I'll drag this one in, and same thing as what I did with the R2 unit. Go ahead and lock those in place here. And we'll go to the front, and we will lock that one in place. All right, so now for the R4 unit, if I go in and click in here, I need to go in and create another parameter for that. So I'll do an R4 head. Oops, put that in my dimensions there. Didn't mean to do that. All right, so I need to actually go in and recreate that one. So you'll see sometimes if you create a parameter and you forget to change the information, stuff gets locked in there. Fortunately, you have to simply delete that one out of there, and we're going to recreate that. All right, so that is a yes, no. Keep that under other. And now we've got that one set. I need to go in and create a new type here. So that will be R4. So you see that the R4 head, we have that one checked on. If that one is selected, if I go to R2, I want to make sure that one is checked and this one is unchecked for that particular instance. So go ahead and apply that. Again, we can use the preview display here. And also need to make sure that I have this new unit head tied into that parameter. So I want to go over to my associate family parameters, change that to R4 head. You can see that it now disappears from being in the view. If I switch that over to the R4 unit, go ahead and click OK. Now we have that as the default head here. So I'm going to create one more unit here, just so we can have a little bit of comparison. So we'll go with the R5 here. Anybody remember what unit is the one with the bad motivator? A little Star Wars trivia there while you're waiting. All right, so just basically repeating the same processes here. And as you can see, I can actually change, you know, which way that I'm doing it. As you can see, I created actually the type name first, and now I'm actually creating the parameter after that. So some of these steps you don't always have to go in the same order, I guess, each time. You can go in and change that up how you want there. All right, so that is my R5 head. So we should have basically 3 different types set up within here. So R5, just simply going back here, make sure that right ones are checked. You'll notice as you go in and add additional types that it automatically checks those in your other ones. So you want to make sure that you go back and double check to make sure that the right ones are checked within the family types dialog box. Now, obviously, with each one here, as a user, you know, you want to go in and plug in model, manufacturer type information. You can throw in some type comments. You could put in a URL type information within there. So it's kind of up to you as to, you know, deciding what you want to be able to see within there. So, you know, for my R5 droid here, for my URL, I want to plug that in there. So now if an end user wants to see some data on this particular family, they can click on that link and they can see, oh, there's the data about the R5 series astromech droid there. Gives the height, equipment, hey, all the stories it's been into, movies, shows, all that good stuff. So again, just simply adding that information in there as to what you want to describe about that particular family, totally up to you. And you know, obviously some of this information can be scheduled. We'll also be taking a look at shared parameters in the next webinar, so make sure you catch that one. All right, so I've got each of these placed here. What I'm going to do now is just go ahead and simply save what I've got. And I just want to test it out within a project. Let's see what these units look like here. So I'm just going to start a brand new project. We'll just use the architectural template here. And let's see, we'll go back here and we'll bring in our R2 units here. So we'll load it into the project. And you can see here, maybe your non-typical looking list here in your type selector for families, but I can go ahead and place my R2 units in here. So I got an R2 here, and we got the R5. So, this is part of that process of just simply checking your designs out here. So maybe the Jawas just came over and delivered these droids. So we can go in and select which one that we want. By the way, did anybody guess which one has the bad motivator? Just gonna check the chat window here. Bad motivator equals AutoCAD. Well, maybe. I think it's this guy right here, the R5 unit. I should go ask my reference here that's sitting on the couch. Yep, my daughter, 16-year-old daughter, big Star Wars fan. She says the R5 unit is the one with the bad motivator. So be careful of that one. I know it's a cheaper model, so no, don't look at that one. These R2 ones, they work a little bit better. All right. So again, popping it into a project here, verifying that everything looks good, going to floor plans, going to elevation views, checking each of those out, creating some section cuts if need be, to see how that family is working. So again, that was number 10 of my 10-step process for creating families, is really checking out in a project. And when I say project, I mean a test project. You don't want to bring in your Revit family testing into a live project, because once it's in there, that means it's open for everybody to start utilizing that content that you place in there. So create a dummy project, and typically what I do for content that I'm creating is I create a building, very small square building, throw some windows, doors, put a ceiling, roof, floor in there, some interior section cuts, interior elevations, so that you can just pop in a family and go to all those different views that you have set up. And it is your testing ground for your family creation. So when you test that out, make sure that it's working correctly. That's when you populate it into a library or push it into a project that you have. All right. Now, other uses for the nested families, other than putting droid heads on droids, is a lot of times you may want to have just simply data that a user could maybe schedule within a project. I'm going to go ahead and insert another family in here, and it's going to be the data recorder. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up in here. And when I go to families, you'll see that I have data devices and data recorder. Now, I created this family as just more or less information that I want to have into the family, but there's actually no geometry whatsoever related to this data recorder. But I just want to have that info in here. So if I go back to the family types and I want to add this data device nested family really into my family types here, what I'll do is I'll go in and click on my new parameter here. I'm going to create a new family parameter. I'll just simply call it data recorder. And discipline is going to be common. Type of parameter, this time I'm going to choose family type. All right, so when you click family type, it's going to list all the different types of families that you have. And what I'm looking for is the data devices, because I want to read the information from data devices for this. So I go ahead and click on that, click OK, and I'm just going to keep this under other, so it'll be with the our unit heads here, and I'm going to set it as an instance. So that means for each instance, I could go in and change which type of data recorder information there could be in there. So I go ahead and click OK, and you can see that it adds that information in here, data recorder, and it lists which category it's under, data devices. And then it has a drop-down list here of which instance I could go in and select for that particular recording. All right, so if I go in and click on Luke Skywalker's recording, go ahead and hit OK here. And I'll just go in and save this. And let's see here, did I load? Nope, I closed that one out here. Let me reopen up a new project here. All right, so we'll load that back in the project. And I'll go in and place it. Okay, so since I placed this R2 in here, I want it to have a certain data recording. Okay, so in the properties here for an instance, okay, so this R2 unit has a Princess Leia recording attached to it. But I could go in and select a different one. I could have a Luke Skywalker recording in here, or maybe there's no recording in there, so we could just set it as empty. So this gives you different options to just simply add data that could be either an instance or it could be a type parameter. If it was a type parameter, we would see it in the edit type area here instead. But in this case, I want it to be able to be chosen by the placement of that R2 unit. And this one has an empty one here. If I want to go in and add another one, let me go to my component here. So this R2 unit, this one, this one's going to have Luke Skywalker. So this one doesn't have any. This one has Luke Skywalker. So that's another way that you can use nested families. I use that quite often for a lot of my family creation for objects that do not need to be physically seen, but need to be obviously documented within the family. All right, so let's see here. Just taking a look at some of the questions that are coming through. All right, so somebody asked, where did you populate the data recording information? Okay, so that was actually in the data devices family here, the data recorder. So I actually started a new family for that. So I can actually go in and edit here. And this is the family. As you can see, there is absolutely nothing in this one here. Go to reference level. All you see is some crosshairs. So to go and just simply add data, you can go up to family types and you can go in and create new types up here. So if I want to put in Obi-Wan's recording as an option, now we have 3 of them within there. So I can just simply load this back into my R unit project. And we'll go and overwrite that. So now I'll have 4 different options for recordings here. I can go ahead and save that, load it back into my current project. So, all right, so the other question was, is that data text only? What purpose does it serve? Could it be used for pricing somehow, and can it be scheduled? It could be potentially scheduled. It has to be a shared parameter though. I will be going through shared parameters in the next webinar. So that might be a good way to kind of implement that into the next webinar and do a little bit with the scheduling. Obviously with the project parameters, those cannot be scheduled. Can't be scheduled or tagged, but shared parameters can. So again, we will look at that in the next webinar. And that is, that's called the return of the parameters. All right. Next thing I want to get into is the connectors. So with the connectors, they are obviously more of an MEP type instance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of a couple of these here. I'll save my data recorder info. Yeah, close out the project here. And I believe I saved my droid as well here. All right, so we got a power converter pump here. And with the MEP side of things, obviously when a user goes into the out-of-the-box content, you may have seen that there's folders for architecture and MEP. And if you're a new user, you pop into them and you'll see that there's a lot of the same type of content within both. And the MEP content is content that has a bit more of information. Again, the connectors are there to create systems, obviously create connection points. So with the family that I have open here, I've got a couple basically little stubs here on the pump, and I just want to go in and create some connectors for those particular instances. Now, when I'm in the family creation side here, and I'm in the create tab, we have an area specifically for connectors. So the 5 connectors that I mentioned in my PowerPoint. And if I want to go in and let's say I want to just start out with an electrical connector, I go ahead and click on the option there, and you can choose how it's going to be placed, whether it's going to be on a surface face of a physical object, or if you have a work plane that you've gone in and created. So that means you've created a reference plane and you want it to be on that reference plane. Also, for this one, you can see that there's different types of electrical connectors. So it looks like we have about, 9 different types of connectors. In this instance, I want a power balanced type connector for this pump. So if I go in and click on that, I'm going to come over here and I want to go in and click on the surface of that little stub that I created there. So I go in and click on it, and what it does is it creates this big circular green kind of target. So you can't really miss that when you go in and place it. After I place it, I'm just going to hit escape a couple times, and then I'll go back and click on that connector. And when you have it selected, if we go over to the properties palette, it's going to give you some information that you can go in and plug in related to that connector. So I've already set it as a power balance, but if you wanted to change it to something else, if you made a mistake there, you could go in and click on any one of the other types within there. You can go in and set what number of poles that are within here for this. So you have a little up-down arrow to change that. You can change the power factor state. You can change a load classification. When you click on this button, it'll take you out to the information here. So I'm going to set that as a power type load classification. We also have voltage, apparent load, and power factor type information. So we can plug that information into that. Again, next week when I get into more of the shared parameters, the buttons over here, the associate family parameter buttons, will come into play a little bit more. Because what we can do is we can reuse those shared parameters for multiple families. Instead of having to go in and change these for every instance, I wanted to change based on the type of object that I'm going in and creating. Also, with each of these, We can go in and just simply add a connector description here. So if this one's going to be our main electrical power supply, I can go in and plug that information in. So after I've added all the information that I want, then I can obviously go on to the next instance there. So I just simply go into each spot there, go in and create a new connector, and this one's going to be a low voltage instance here. And we'll go ahead and change this here to a power instance as well. Down below here, I want to go in and add some pipe type connectors. So this one's going to be a little bit different. So when I go ahead and click on pipe, and I go in and choose that, again, get that same kind of circular diameter type here. But when I go in and create that, I can go in and add some additional parameters to that, because right now it's showing me as a 24-inch diameter. So I want to go in and change some of that information within there. But before I do that, I just want to show you some of the other information in here. So you'll see that as I go in and add a pipe type connector, now we're seeing mechanical information. You know, obviously water, electric don't really go together. So in this instance, you know, we can choose our flow configuration with a calculated flow, preset system, or fixed unit information. Which direction is it going? Is the flow coming into the equipment, or is it flowing out, or is it a bidirectional? So going either direction there. We also have a couple different loss methods within here. We can adjust for slopes. We can also set what system classification that this is going to be set under. So this one, I believe, we got I believe this is hydronic. Oh, sorry, this one's gas. So I want to go and set this here to other. Oh, and let me go in and add the connector description here. So this is our gas line. I'll go ahead and click off of that. All right, so now as far as the diameter goes, obviously I can go in and change this diameter, but I want to go in and change it in the family types here. So what I want to do is I'm going to go and add a few additional items within here to basically set what I want the line diameters to be. So I'm going to come down here and create a couple new parameters. So again, just going to simply creating some family parameters. So I'm going to create a gas line radius here. And let's set that as piping and pipe size. And we got that as dimensions there. All right, go and create another one here. This one is going to be a liquid line. So I haven't actually created that connector yet, but I will. And I'll hit OK for that one as well. All right, so they both default in here for at 0. So I'm going to change this here to 7/16, and we'll change our liquid line here to 3/16 of an inch here as well. Now, I also, as you can see, I'm creating radiuses in here, but I want diameters in here as well. So I'm going to create a couple additional parameters in here. So this one's going to be a gas line service valve, and this is going to give us basically our diameter. All right, so go back here, change that to piping and pipe size. We got dimensions, and actually I'm gonna move that down here to mechanical. So kind of give it its own area. So you can actually switch which category that you want it under. All right, so liquid line service valve. And we'll set that one as piping, pipe size, and again, put that one under mechanical here. All right, so this one, we want it 7/8. And again, these are going to be our diameters. All right, so I also want these to be tied in together here. So I'm going to take the gas line service valve here. I'm going to copy this up here and divide that by 2. And that basically gives us the amount there. So it's going to change that value. So when you're going into to Revit, you want to sometimes go in and create some formulas that will calculate other information out for you. So to test this out, if I go in and change this to 1 inch, you can see that changed to 1/2 inch for the radius there. I'm going to change it back to 7/8 here. You can see that it changes it back to the 7/16. So if I go and click OK and I click on my connector here again, we got the diameter right now at 24 inches, but if I click on the associate family parameter, I want to go in and change this to the gas line service valve and then go in and click OK. Now, as you can see, it changes it to the 7/8 inch size. Now, maybe you're wondering, well, why didn't I just change that to 7/8 inch right in here instead of going through the trouble of developing all these additional parameters? Well, in some instances, because you have different types of equipment, those pipe sizes could change based on the size. So when I go in and create those types, I can go in and change these individually by type, and that value will go in and change there. So for the smaller one, let's say this one is 1/2 inch. And I'll just do 1/2 inch for both of those. So that makes the gas line radius 1/4 inch for the HP024C instance. But if I go back to this one, again, it's a larger size. So you can see that one goes in and modifies because now that's the current instance. If I switch it back to the 60 again, that circle increases in size there. So to simply go in and test this out, I'll go in and save my project here, or save my family. And again, I closed out of my project. I should probably keep one of those open one of these times here. So go to project, and we'll just do a systems one here just to kind of check and see how that works within the project. All right, so we'll take our power converter pump and bring that in. And also when I test out families, I like to keep the family open along with the project. So I'll always just choose the load into project. Typically, I don't choose the load into project and close until I know that it's completed. So I'll click load into project here, and we'll go in and place one in. So right off the bat, when I go in and place that family in, we see the connectors right away here. I'm going to hit escape a couple times. So I got a couple connectors in there. You can see based on the symbols, the little lightning bolt obviously is our electrical connection. And then over here we have our pipe connection that we go in and add to. So with those selected, I can right click and choose to draw pipe coming off of there. So when I go in and click on that, oh, I got PVC ductwork coming out of there. Let's try that again. Back that up. Draw pipe, and let's just do standard and see if that one works there. Oh, still doesn't like that one. I think it's probably just the size of that pipe coming out of there. All right, we'll go ahead and change this here to a fine mode. Let's see what's going on with that. So I had to create a little transition there from the size to the size of the pipe. I think it's, yeah, we don't have a matching pipe size for that, that instance. So that's why it was giving me that error message. But again, as you can see, I was able to go in and create the pipe, obviously created the fitting for that. If I go in and click on the object again here, I can go in and right click and I can go in and create a power circuit for the power connector that I created. I don't have any panels in here. I can select that and then go in and create a circuit for that information. Obviously, you have the circuit data related over here that we can go in and add some information into. But yeah, again, we got to go in and create those connectors on the physical 3D families. Go in and obviously add information to those. Obviously a little bit more information than I added into these, didn't add any real power type information within there, but add that data in there and complete those families. Again, test them out, go in, add ductwork, piping, try to create some circuits for each of those instances there. All right. All right, so wrapping it up here. So again, in conclusion, again, we went through a little bit about the previous webinar, went through a little bit on the reference planes, to create the skeleton shape of the model, add dimensions and labels, and then add geometry and locked it in. Also, first part of the session, I went through nested families. Again, it can be used to create more complex families. In this instance, I went in and used nested families to create the different heads for the R2 unit, and then created some types based on those. And then I also used the nested families just for more data type information when I added the data recorder type information in. Again, I use that quite often on families. Again, it is not for the geometry, but again, more for the data. Again, nested families can save you time, but again, if you use them too much, it can add too much weight to a family. Don't go in and start creating every nut and bolt for an object for a family. That is not a way to utilize nested families. If you're getting into that much detail, you want to go into Inventor or SolidWorks to create your assembly models. But again, with Revit, we want to keep those family sizes down. Again, try to get them to about a meg or less. That's always my goal as I go in and create families within Revit. And then lastly, the last part of the session, I went through creating some connectors to a family for the MEP people that are on the call here. Obviously, we need to have connectors added into the families to go in and create systems. They're a necessary item. Again, we have each of the different types of connectors. It could be HVAC connectors, ductwork, the piping, electrical, conduit, and cable tray type instances. All right, so again, as with my last session, it was posted on the ATG website and also on our YouTube link. If you're not already following me on LinkedIn, I always post them as well. I will be continuing this series. It'll actually be next month, will be the next one. So make sure that you sign up for that one. Again, I will be talking about shared parameters in that one. I did kind of open it up in the chat window. If you have other topics that you would like me to discuss in webinars, get into more detail, please let me know. I want to make sure that you get what you're looking for. So again, may the force be with you always. Sign up for the final episode 3, the return of the parameters, coming soon to a computer screen near you. Thank you, everyone.